Good morning. This is the last of my debriefing from last Wednesday's trip, and it's high time because this is Tuesday. I'm about ready to lap myself here because I'll be going in on Wednesday once again. And I was at a meeting last night in Roaring Spring of the Historical Society of Roaring Spring, and boy, there's lots to be said about that. But anyway, I'm going to think of this as the Tavern effect. I had two more conversations that I want to tell you about, but in a way, I instead of those being the names that I would choose, it's the Tavern effect. What I mean by that is I think the brewery, the Spring Dam Brewery, and the effort of Mike Keith, I call him Mike the Brewer, and Anita Knoll, and well, and also her sister, uh, but Renee, and her brother, I think. Anyway, specifically the brewery. It has when I heard that it existed, I almost instantly decided that is a great thing for Roaring Spring because there's a place where I can go public. I can meet people. I can find out what's going on in that town. That's the Tavern effect. And I started to. And it's been, oh well, it's been over a year now that on a regular basis I've been going there and gradually making friends with all kinds of people and learning and learning. Now, the same thing is happening at Danny Kate's Cafe, although it's a much smaller operation and it's a different kind of experience. But I regularly go there, not for the coffee, but for the, well, she's a wonderful cook. I always buy food there to take with me home. But it's for the people who I meet there, and Sheena especially, but her daughter and her partner, and I mean, you can feel the pulse and the heartbeat of that part of Roaring Spring. Uh, but anyway, back to I'm just going to call it the Tavern effect because I think, it's almost critical that a community have a place like that. And churches serve to some extent, well, they serve a different purpose, but they serve in a similar way. Anyway, the conversations. Uh, the first one that I had, well, let me say, first of all, uh, I, as, I think, how did those conversations go? Well, anyway, one of them was with a man named Jim, and I had not seen him to talk to really much for almost a year, and yet he was one of the first ones that opened up that history of Roaring Spring to me. Now remember, it's my hometown. I lived there till I was about 4, and then my family moved away, and it took me a quarter of a century really to get back. But so there's a whole lot of the history I don't know. But he opened up to me. He's the one that told me about that video of the 1937 parade in Roaring Spring. He said you should watch that. And I know someday, I suspect he's someday going to be mayor of Roaring Spring. He'd like to be. And we had a chance to talk. He's been too busy to be down there at the same times that I'm there because he's close to retirement. But got a different job some. I don't understand that exactly. But we talked about, well, back to the hogback and the beyond hogback part down there by Cabbage Creek Falls. He was telling me, he's the one that told me that as a boy they used to play down in there. He knew that area really well. So we talked about that, and it was lovely. Now, during that conversation, let's see, a guy went by and tapped me on the shoulder. Well, that was Aaron. He was also in on those very first conversations with me because I was interviewing about how the brewing process goes because I've tried to brew ale myself and Will again, and this is a year ago. He was in on that conversation. He helps Mike the brewer to do his brewing. And not too long after, his wife went by, Crystal. She was my student in Bedford, and I remembered her as a good artist, and I had just had a chance to say hi to her and how art was going and stuff. So that was a lovely conversation, and I was about ready to go, but I was hanging around because I thought the new bartender, and I can't remember his last name. His first name, I think, is Denny. I'd met him the week before. I think I'd only seen him once before, maybe twice, but because he's brand new. But he's going to be there, I think, regularly on Wednesdays, which is the time that if someone wants to, I'm so predictable that 4:30, I'm probably going to be for a little while there at the brewery for the Tavern effect and the beer. Well, I asked about him, and Mike said that, well, he'll be here probably in a few minutes, because I guess he starts work at maybe it was 5 o'clock by then. Well, I wanted to see him because I had brought something for him. In our earlier conversation, I'd found out that he's from Shellsburg. Now, Shellsburg is further away from Roaring Spring than I am. It's in Bedford, and that's where he'd gone to school. That's where he was from. And I said, well, a man I know in Shellsburg, I wonder if you know him, is Mike Hernkane. He says, oh yeah, I know Mike. Here's that Tavern effect. This is in the conversation before. And I talked about how Mike was Mike Hernkane is probably the best, I'd take the probably out of there. He's the best poet that I know of personally, And I had brought this because Denny, the new bartender, he was aware of Mike's writing. And we'd talked a little about how good Mike was. And I wanted him to see this. This is a poet's duel that Mike Hernkane and I published, 30 years ago probably. I'd have to put my glasses on to see here. But I think there's 12, maybe it was 10, I can't remember, 12 poems of each of us, one after the other, to see his or typed, mine I wrote out, and it was to be a duel. Each one was a round, you could call it, and the art is his, and at the end he declares in his art that he won, and here's the way the cover. See, there I am bowing down to him, and he is the greater writer. There's no doubt about it. But there's the two of us. And I wanted to give him a copy of that because I have a few copies left. And that completes my debriefing. I am tempted to just pause now and use this venue to read these poems round by round and let you decide. Maybe I will let you decide who won that round. They're good. I think they're good. So anyway, bye for now.